conférence de presse des...
J'ai l'impression de quoi, tu disais? Ah oui, c'est ça, oui. Vous êtes venu avec des petits échantillons, non? Moi, je suis avec des petits cartons.
Ah bah moi, j'ai carrément...
Ah, t'as des bouteilles? Non, mais tu les as ici? Ah, moi, je suis venu avec tout mon truc, parce que j'ai pas de stand. Je les ai pliés, je les ai...
Hello?
Hop, 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 ça s'ouvre, comme ça.
Yeah? Okay. All right. I think we should start. Good afternoon. It's quite early, I guess, so many people are still or having lunch, and but it's great to have you all here. And I'm very happy to be talking with three excellent panelists today about sustainability again. We are actually facing a journey, so to say, because this isn't the first session on sustainability. It's the third one in a row. So we started 2 years ago and continued last year, and this is the third time that we are having this conversation on sustainability. And I really appreciate also the commitment of Essence and the team and Essential for the help and support and interest also in this topic. So this year we'll have the conversation on Bouquet of responsibility, navigating sustainability in artistic perfumery and beyond. So maybe some experiences are also reaching us from beyond artistic perfumery. And just, oh, that was too fast. Just to give you a brief focus on the reasoning of this session, I mentioned that we focused on sustainability also in the past. In the past 2 years, the first year, 2022, was focusing on sustainability along the value chain. So we started with a raw materials producer, then went on to talk to a perfumer and also to a retailer. Last year, we talked about how to measure and how to communicate and educate sustainability. And just like the previous session on education, I think that's a very important point, how to integrate sustainability in communication and education. And we draw some lessons on both sessions, I think. So one of the key learnings, and certainly also of importance today at our talk, is that sustainability is a process. So it's not a 0 or 1 event that is taking place. You are not either not sustainable or sustainable, but it's a development in time. And I think one of the learnings that we are talking today about is how to do that in the future, especially in artistic perfumery. And I'm raising here the main important points that we are talking about today. So holistic, I call it holistic sustainability in artistic perfumery, namely how to create with sustainable ingredients, how to brand sustainable perfume, how to package and how to do or to transport sustainable material logistically, and in the end, or maybe also in a conversation with you, how to innovate and collaborate in this context. I think that's a very important point, and we also discussed that previously, that a lot comes also from other industries, and it's also about learning and collaborating beyond the sphere of artistic perfumery. I think that's an important point. So let me introduce you to the speakers or the panelists, and I'm very happy to have them all here today. So I'll introduce you first of all to Jérôme Di Marino from Man. He grew up in the French Alps with a view on the Mont Blanc, and we just talked about that, a very picturesque view. After his degree at the University of Nice, with a degree in chemistry, he applied and did his school at ISIPCA in Versailles. His apprenticeship took him to Givaudan, and you worked with Nathalie Chetto as a first tutor there. And 2 years later, you briefly also worked for LVMH, I learned. You took a job at Takasago and worked with Francis Kurjan. And he supervised, or you worked with him on several projects. And since the end of 2022, Jérôme is now at Man and at the creative team. And you've also done quite interesting projects that we might talk about. You are living in Barcelona, but also working in Paris. And you've been quite successful in working both for bigger brands, but also for upcoming niche brands. And you mentioned several brands are exhibiting here today. So we are curious to learn about those, not only the ones that I'm mentioning here. So thank you for being here. Second, I'm very happy to introduce you to Sébastien Tissot, who actually has a long career as a head of sustainable sourcing of natural ingredients for Firmenich. So you had also years of experience for a natural or for a material producer, Firmenich, and responsible sourcing, as you see it, is taking place throughout the value chain. So it covers also brands, perfumers, the whole supply chain. I think that's a very, very valuable approach. And since you went from Firmenich, or you left the company, you are building your own brand, Nisaba, which is also exhibiting here. So one invite is to see Sébastien later at the stand if you haven't done so. And I'm struck by how you run the company, namely with your experiences and your personal conviction. And I think that's a main draw that is very relevant here. And Nisaba so far has already been recognized by certain awards. For example, the Fragrance Foundation France, winner of the Responsible Innovation Award, as well as the Cosmetic Mag Awards, where you've been, or where Nisaba has been mentioned as a jury's favorite, and as well by Marie Claire in the UK. So thank you for being here. And last but not least, I'm happy to introduce you to Chris Baudry from Mezza Board. He has a university degree in communication and advertising actions, as well as a university degree in marketing and sales. And you are also, Chris, a graduate of Mezza Group and also University Executive Management Program. So as you heard, Chris is very much involved in the Finnish sphere, and we'll hear about that later on. So you have more than 30 years experience in the paper and paperboard industry, and since 2020, you are heading the brand owners, non-food sales, and EMEA, including health and beauty care team of the company. So I think that gives us very good angles to look at sustainability from different viewpoints. And the way we are organizing our conversation now is that I will start with a discussion with one-on-one with Jérôme, continuing with Sébastien and then Chris, and then we'll open the floor to questions of yours. So let us start, and I'm just sitting down here. Let us start with Man's approach to sustainability. We are covering Jérôme's creative aspects, or his creativity in terms of coming up with new formulas later. But I'm now at the beginning curious in general how Man is focusing on sustainability and how that has changed over the last years. Maybe you can give us some examples of how Man is working on sustainability.
Okay. So thanks for coming first. Regarding the Man approach with sustainability, Man has a long-lasting approach, establishing a virtuous practices with the, I don't know, you hear me well? Okay. With the whole ecosystem to make it stable and sustainable, especially regarding the sources of the raw materials, which are the product that we use in our day-to-day and our keys as a perfumer. So there's CSR programs that man is building on almost each natural product, trying to move forward each time regarding the help that we provide to all the local communities, to the growers, to the farmers, to the source of the products. So to give an example, there's one which is very accurate because it's covering almost the whole part of what is a CSR program. CSR is the corporate social responsibility. And it's covering, if I sum it up, it's covering like you have to find a good balance between the profitability, the population where you are doing the process around the raw materials, and the planet, obviously. So it's finding this right balance and each time measuring the risk that you have with this new product that you want to develop and convert it into a positive impact. So to give you the example, the most accurate one is the vanilla that we have in Man. Man is working around vanilla since 2 decades now, and they have developed a very strong CSR program. For example, it helps a lot the local population, making donations for schools. It's giving kits for schools to encourage the kids to keep studying, and it's contributing as well to the renovation of school infrastructures, classrooms or sanitaries. It's always also helping on the healthcare side, doing HIV screening for local population. It's helping on giving food as well. Man is making a donation of rice and contribute to the buildings of, in some village, rice granaries to help them having a good quality of life. And on the economical side, it's interesting because man is helping locally the growers, the farmers, to know better how to create the product they are working with. I mean, for the vanilla in Madagascar, for example, if the farmer has a better quality of vanilla, a premium range of vanilla, he will sell it more expensive on the market, so he will earn a better salary.
Yeah.
So it's helping having a stable local economy,
Yeah.
and we are helping as well with the diversification of their activity, because we don't want them to only work around vanilla because they can't have just 1 year salary. So they make a diversification of other products that they can have in this local ecosystem with the vetiver, for example, the geranium or the ylang-ylang. So it's for the population side of the CSR program in Madagascar. But for the planet side, I would say, man is taking care of the conservation of the nature and has contributed to the reforestation of 40 hectares of forest and 40 hectares of mangrove. So this is an example of just one CSR program for one product.
Yeah.
So we can imagine, regarding the whole palette of the perfumers and the whole naturals that we have access to, that for each product, each material, we can do such good things for local people and ethical source product.
And I'm sure that you are increasing this focus on or broadening the palette of working sustainably with different materials, right? Have you, from the beginning on, surely it has been increasingly global, this approach towards sustainability, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's not that we have new products, but we have a new approach on how we can develop in a long-term relation with the local producers the same product. How can we make it better and have a more positive impact?
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think when you mentioned vanilla, it comes quickly also to your relationship of working with those materials. So the second question in this regard goes into that detail, namely, I summarize it under the head balancing creativity and responsibility. So can you generally provide us with some examples how you integrate environmental responsibility with your creative expression? So how do you make use of those sustainable ingredients?
Actually, as a perfumer, we have access to two types of products at the palette. The natural ones and the synthetics one. And I want to mention the synthetics because they are as well important in the sustainability aspect of fragrances today. And the palette of the perfumer is evolving very quickly. And regarding the naturals, in Man we are working around what we call the jungle essence extraction, which has a sustainable and eco-responsible aspect because it's lower use in energy during the extraction, and we are capturing the ambient air to make the extraction. So, so it's a recyclable source.
Right.
And we can mention as well the upcycled program that we have, which is interesting because we are adding value to wastes from other industries. For example, we have a cedar wood, which is coming from the furniture industry. We reuse the wood dust of it and make the extraction. I can mention the citruses, which is coming from the juice industry. They just need the juice. We keep the peel and we make the extraction of it.
Right.
Or the cypress, which is coming from the seasonal cut. And instead of throw it away, we keep the waste and we recollect the waste and we made an extraction of it. So this is what we have access to for the natural products and for the synthetics ones. The palette is evolving more and more from petrochemicals to renewable products. Products that we might find from the synthesis of the pine derivated or citrus derivated, which are renewable sources, or for me, the future, which is the biotechnologies, with the enzymatic processes, which give birth to all new range of molecules. So regarding what we have as perfumer, Man developed a tool which is called Green Motion, which help us to measure the environmental impact of each ingredient. It's a tool which is based on the 12 principles of chemistry. For example, it's measuring if we are wasting water in the process, if we are using solvent, if it's biodegradable, or if we are producing wastes, just to give you some examples. So it gives us, in the software we are using as perfumer, a live score of the fragrance, if it's green or if it's not green. So it's kind of a compass that guides us to pick up the right products for the right kind of project. Because there's so many green aspects in fragrances. It can be biodegradable, it can be sustainable, it can be renewable, ethical. You don't use the same kind of product, so it helps you picking up the right ones.
Right. And you are depending on the project, deciding with what kind of material you are working with, right?
Yes, because sometimes if you have a 100% biodegradable project, you might not use the same product that is 100% renewable.
Right.
To give you some example, the Edion, which is a very common product, it has a good biodegradable score, but it doesn't have a good renewable score.
Right.
But if you use the ISO-E, it has a good renewable score, but it doesn't have a good biodegradable score. So it's important that in the same formula you can have big blocks that makes you increasing the score you want to reach or decreasing. So that's how you have to play between both.
That's fascinating. I think that also connects to the next question that is focusing also once again on creative sustainability, and especially when we are facing this growing artistic perfumery sector, the question is what opportunities do you see in blending fine fragrance artistry or niche perfumery with sustainability? I mentioned earlier that you are working with some of the exhibitors here. Do they actually come to you and say, I clearly want to work with a sustainable approach, or how do you integrate this or blend the materials, sustainable materials of Man in these projects?
It depends on of the brand, but the points that I want to light up here is that as the brands are smaller, it offers to the perfumer kind of alternative raw materials that we couldn't use for bigger projects because we don't have the quantities to produce for worldwide projects. So that's a good point because we can we can work with local producers on exclusive production of a specific product for a specific brand.
Yeah.
To give you some example, we can, and we are doing it for Italian brands, we can develop a specific neroli coming from the region. Even if we know that the quantity will be small for a collection or for a niche brand, it might fit in and it might help the brand to link it with its roots, with its DNA. I'm working since a year now on a vanilla project with a niche brand, and we are developing new vanilla for this project, which is not coming from Madagascar but from Indonesia. We are helping the local producer to integrate their vanilla bean to our own process of vanillas.
Yeah.
So the brand doesn't want to claim it in the end. That's not the purpose of it, but they asked me since the beginning that they are working with a local organization in Indonesia. They did it for the patchouli for another launch, and they wanted to do so with the vanilla. So they asked us, and we are working on it since a year now.
I think that's a fascinating aspect of it, because also from the conversations of the last 2 years and from the continuing conversation later on, we see that in some brands, sustainability has a much bigger point of view or aspect. And as you now said, some brands are, well, using sustainable materials, but not clearly marketing them as such. Or
sometimes it's just a question of ethical.
Yeah.
They just want to do it because they feel more comfortable doing things like this.
Right.
And it's not greenwashing.
Yeah.
So
that's an important point, I think.
What's interesting is that finally we talked a lot about globalization last decade, but I think that now there's some opportunities with this kind of project to have local DNA, to develop local economies and help smaller producers through this kind of brands and projects.
That's a great point of view. Let's move on to the next question, and I'm looking at you now from as a perfumer and your work on perfumes or on materials and formula. So how does your personal ethos guide you in using those sustainable ingredients in perfumery?
The point is that, as you might all know, being perfumer is a very competitive day-to-day life.
Yeah.
So you have to find a good balance between the creativity, the technical part of the fragrance as well, and the green aspect of the fragrance you want. Because it doesn't make sense if you have a 100% natural fragrance, which is sustainable or whatever, but it's not technically at the level of the market, because nobody will buy it if it's not diffusing enough or if it's not long-lasting enough. Because sometimes it's true that synthetic products gives you a performance that you might not have with only naturals.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't fit the cost, and it wouldn't fit the technical side. So you have to find the right balance to measure and to be sure that you're not losing the project just because you are focusing on a claim.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be 100% natural, but each time I can, I switch on the renewable sources of synthetics. For example, for very common product like linalol or linalil, it's almost the same price. It has the same technical aspect, so I switch for this one. And for some products which are powders or gum or resins, we have to use solvents. So the most of the time we use the dipropylene glycol, and I used to switch it on a natural tech, which is at least a source which is natural and renewable. So these are, even if I'm not working on a green project, I try to to switch some step because we are doing so many formulas and using so many samples each day that it's step by step, but it's changing the mindset.
But you're choosing them on the basis of the quality of the ingredient, right?
Yes, which is the first step. It has to smell good first.
Sure.
So.
Or how it fits into a formula. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, let's switch to the last question to Jérôme. Speaking about the future, or the options, opportunities, and possibilities of the future, what is your personal vision for sustainability in fragrance, and how do you also see that linked to new extraction methods?
Actually, sustainability was a trend before, and now it has been it's converted in a new norm.
Yeah.
I don't say that all the projects needs to be 100% natural or renewable, but there's always a dimension in the new project that we receive that you have to fit in the green aspect of it. So regarding the extractions, I mentioned the jungle essence, but to go further in the naturals, man developed the e-pure jungle essence, which are enfleurage extraction, but with a natural solvant, natural oil, which is jojoba oil.
Yeah.
So that may be opening the door to new flower extractions as well. And I'm thinking a lot about the biotechnologies, which gives, as I said before, birth to new molecules that doesn't exist in other synthetic ways. And in man, we have like the antillone, which is a very juicy fruity note, or the vianol, which is a vanilla, spicy licorice note that I don't have substitute. So I think I would like just to finish to compare it with the last century when there were the industrial revolution, and we see in the perfumery coming new molecules like coumarin, methylionone, or vanillin, and they totally create what is the modern perfumery we are living in now. So I think the biotechnology could help us to give the next step to this, because this product has become our day-to-day product, the coumarin and vanillin, but it was really new at the time.
Right.
So I think that some of new biotechnological products might be the future of fragrance of tomorrow.
Yeah. That's a fascinating viewpoint, and thank you very much. We save some time for questions later on, so thank you first of all. And let's move on to the next speaker, the next discussant. And I think we already heard from Jérôme some points that we can also draw some bridges, or build some bridges and draw some conclusion when it comes to Sebastian's brand Nisaba. First of all, in terms of fragrance formulation, how does Nisaba, your brand, ensure that sustainability of perfume ingredients are there, or that you make use of them while maintaining at the same time artistic quality? I think that's a big challenge.
Hello everybody. So there's no conflict between being sustainable and being high quality in artistic perfumery. So that's very good news. That's my conviction at least. But to achieve both, it's different set of actions. So for me, it's more easy for the ingredients profiling because I was in charge of exactly that at Firmenich for 15 years. So I know exactly each ingredient of the palette, if they are sustainable or not, or at least for the natural and the synthetics. So I give instructions to, in my brief of the ingredients I want and the ingredients that I don't want. So that's for the sustainability of ingredients. In terms of the work of people like Jérôme, so it's my ex-colleagues, you know, so it's somehow there's some personal relations. And because I've been discussing so much with them, I know what they need to do a good work. They need freedom. So that's what I give them. Except this brief on positive and negative list, they have total freedom. No budget limitation, no benchmark, no gender predefined, no test, no consumer test. And they love that. That's what they really want to do, basically. So that's how I can get some good perfumes in the end.
Okay, that's good. A quick answer.
Yes.
The next question is also, I think, a challenging one. It also draws maybe to the previous session that Karen moderated. How does Nisaba communicate or communicate environmental commitments to consumers who prioritize luxury and exclusivity? I think there might be a
So
stretch.
that's really the tricky part. I launched the brand about 1.5 years ago. I developed a passion for sustainability, for natural ingredients. And then I said, I want to do my brand that really has the highest ethics and sustainable brand. But then what I found out that consumers, they don't really care, right? So you have un succès d'estime, as we say, but it's not necessarily what really triggers a purchase. So in terms of really business, So to answer your question and to be a bit controversial, I don't communicate too much about that. So the way for me, the critical path is first to create a very good fragrance. That's the most important. And then to have a beautiful brand, platform. And then I want to hook my community, my clients with that. And then I want to take them little by little to all the choices we made and why we think that's the best choice for sustainability. But if you go and start speaking about sustainability right away, that can really be a negative impact. So the benefit case could be even negative. So people expect for sustainable product to pay less, which is crazy, but that's just reality today. So my bet is that this will change. We used to smoke on airplanes, so I still do it anyway, and then I communicate little by little. That's.
I think that's a great point, because also talking maybe to agents or distributors, you probably have to convince through the perfumes.
So it really depends on geographies. Okay, so for instance, I'm in Switzerland, so the Swiss, they love this kind of stuff, sustainable, natural, everything. But if I have to sell to Russian or Middle East, they don't really care, So it really depends on where. So I have also to adapt my communication depending on the country.
But I think it's valuable to see, like I said at the beginning, to see it as a journey, and you are moving in that direction, and at some point you are covering those aspects, right? Yeah. And actually the next question is also covering that, or looking at that point, namely consumer engagement. How do you actually engage consumers in their sustainability journey and their understanding of your brand?
Yeah, so indeed the challenge is that the maturity of consumers is very low. So they don't understand things all natural is sustainable, which is not true. There are plenty of, they can really fall in the trap of greenwashing, so it's very difficult. But to your question, Bodo, I don't want to educate consumers because I don't want to be the Greta of artistic perfumery. I don't want to post on LinkedIn morality, things like that. I think my ambition is to give a choice. So if you want sustainable, you buy from me. If you want golden caps, heavy bottles, in-your-face perfume, don't buy my brand. But you have the choice. You decide. Okay, so that's my bet. That's what I want to offer. I don't want to educate people. I can't do that actually. So the only thing I can do is on the community, explain all the choices and the complexities of sustainability.
Maybe it's more a point of edutainment or infotainment.
Well, the thing
it's
is
not
that
education.
you have to be attractive in your product, because if you only kind of say principles and things, people get bored.
Yeah.
So you need. It's really a delicate path to do this. It's the most difficult thing, actually.
Yeah.
I think
that's true. Yeah. Speaking about the circular economy, which is a term that comes up in the sustainability debate quite a lot, in embracing this model, what initiatives are focused or that with Nisaba that you are undertaking to reduce?
First, it's important to know that perfumery by itself is really sustainable. By the ingredient palette, as Jérôme said, all the natural terpenes, it's a byproduct of the paper industry, the citrus of the juice industry, the wood extracts, mostly a byproduct of the wood industry. So if you look ingredient by ingredient, when we talk about upcycling, it exists since decades. So the perfume itself is great. We are in an industry that, globally speaking, has a good profile. In terms of the product, I think the main issue is the end of life. Because if you look at all the bottles, you will find outside what happens when they are finished. So there is this refillable bottle. So what we've done, we have a very simple system that is a zero waste. So we have refills that we can sell. You can buy 15% less. And then when you're done with your bottle, we can take back, and we have a completely zero waste solution. But I have to tell you, there's not so many consumers that are ready to do that yet, but we still do it anyway because we believe in it, but it will really take time for this to be in place and in a material way.
And I can imagine that it's also depending on the country where there's more
absolutely.
interest.
On the country and on the retailer, because you need to make your retailer has to play a role in this part and to push for that. So it's the selection of retailer distributors is key.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the last question, which also draws a bridge to, or builds a bridge to the next panelist, namely packaging and logistics. So in terms of your brand Nisaba, what innovative strategies can fragrance brands employ to reduce environmental impact in packaging and logistics?
So we started really from a white page. We said, okay, we want to do the most sustainable products. So what I think is important is a carbon footprint. It's very important. So I don't know if you're familiar with this concept. You need to look at the scope 3, so which is really the full end of life of the product, including logistics. So the element that drives carbon footprint is not the juice, the perfume, and that's really good news I would like to share. If you have to remember one thing, is the fragrance concentrate, the carbon footprint is low, so it's not the problem. So you can still continue to buy vanilla from Man and to formulate with exotic, because if you do the math, that's not the problem. The problem is with the packaging. The glass is very important. So we have the thinnest glass that exists. It's an Italian manufacturer that does that. So the carbon footprint of our entire bottle is 150 grams of CO2. I think it's the lowest carbon footprint of any 100 ml in the market. It's like driving 50 kilometers with a normal car. And then we give 5% of our sales to do micro agroforestry project with young farmers in partnership with schools of agriculture. So we have what we call insetting, so that's really the best practice for carbon compensation. I don't have the exact math, but I predict we can be carbon positive medium term. And then you have the evident choices like FSC, wood, paper, lightweight. You can look at our product. You will see by yourself. That's it.
That's a good final point. If you are, well, I'm sure you will be here the whole day, so stop by the Nisaba stand. You are at, where are you, the last row?
I'm already at the bottom of it, close to the coffee.
So have a look at the brand and enjoy the perfumes. I think they're really great. Yeah. So to talk or to build this bridge that we started to build, or to continue the bridge in terms of a packaging company, I'm happy to have Chris here, and it's great to talk to you about experience from a packaging company. So let's start with material innovation. You are quite engaged in innovating in terms of materials. How do those cater to the aesthetic and sustainability needs of niche perfumery? I think that might be a challenge.
Indeed. So first of all, thank you for your invitation, Bodo, and thank you for coming. You are right. It's very important to think about innovation. So what we have done at Mezza Board, so 4 years ago, we launched a state-of-the-art excellence center in Finland, where we work on, I would say, how we can accelerate packaging solution and innovation. And it's not always easy to think about, I would say, innovation and solution in packaging. But we have a team and a bunch of people working at our packaging design service in this excellence center. And we work together with brand, niche brand and big brands as well, how they can work on their design, how they can use a new generation of packaging material. And I would say the biggest target, of course, is to reduce the carbon footprint. Because now it's a bit urgent, as you well understood, to reduce the carbon footprint. And of course, buying a perfume is a journey, and we are part of this journey, but this journey has to be beautiful, and especially the destination. And this is what I can say in a summary or in a nutshell about this. But it's really key to from scratch, when you start thinking about your perfume, you have to think as well about the packaging itself. Not only the primary packaging, but the secondary packaging as well. Because the biggest impact will come probably from the packaging for secondary and primary packaging.
Yeah, I think the second part of this question on material innovation might be a challenge, namely to align brand identity on the one hand with the sensory experience. Do you have some?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, as an example, this paperboard is a very light paperboard, but strong paperboard. So this is really what we produce at Mezzabord, because we are a paperboard producer, a Finnish producer. And we work on very light paperboards, but very strong paperboards. So it does mean that you have as well to respect this journey, as I was talking about. And this example is a good example of natural luxury, if I can call it natural luxury. So it brings, thanks to this paperboard, you have this, I would say, this authentic feel and this special touch, I would say. And this grade, for example, this product has been, I would say, selected by many luxury brands, but as well niche market brands, because it sounds very authentic, I would say.
Yeah, okay. I think the next question is in that direction as well, namely the aspect of customization, especially for niche brands, for artistic perfumery. In this realm, how do you at Mezzabord collaborate with fragrance brands to create customized packaging solutions?
A lot, as I just said. So we launched this state-of-art excellence center in Finland, because my company is a Finnish company. And we work together with our customers, including brands, how we can, again, achieve a perfect match between what the market is looking for and what the brands are looking for. So it's really a joint work, I would say, with the niche brands and the luxury brands. And we work together with our designers. So we have under the same roof our R&D people, our designer people, and we organize workshops almost every week. And we organize workshops with brands like you, and we do it through face-to-face meetings or online meetings, and it works very well. I can tell you that we have achieved such amazing results in terms of, I would say, final results to have new material, new packaging, new generation of packaging. Is really amazing. So what we have achieved, because we just launched this excellence center just when COVID was starting, and it was during a year. We have organized so many workshops through teams, I would say, and the results are very good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the important points, or one of the aspects that are often discussed, are about transparency. How does Mezzabord actually ensure traceability and transparency in material sourcing and production?
Excellent question. Thank you for asking. And I would say that my company, so I said my company, but it's not my company. We are 10,000 people in this company, so I am just one employee of this company. But the name of my company means forest in Finland. So probably you never met a company named Forest before today. And transparency is really key in our daily operation, in our business model. Traceability as well, of course. And most of the wood we use to produce our paperboards are coming from forests which are owned by a Finnish forest owner, member of Mezza Group. So it does mean that we know exactly where the wood is coming from. I can even tell you the name of a guy who cut the tree. It's amazing if you have the serial number of your perfume, so we can trace it. And of course, safeguarding of the biodiversity is something which is key as well for us. Safeguarding, and it's again, it's really deep in our DNA, I would say. Some people have what we call in French le sang bleu, French red blood, but within Mezza Group and Mezza Board, we have really this green blood. Everything has to be sustainable.
That's a perfect answer that also connects to the second.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mention, but all our grades are PFC or FSC labeled, and all our grades or products are compostable and recyclable, of course.
I think that's a good answer also for the audience here or the broader audience at the event here. How does this transparency that you just described, how do niche brands, artistic perfume brands, benefit from this transparency?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Yes, it's really key, and I can really feel that something is moving fast in terms of sustainability, traceability, and even the new EU regulation, and we have to be fast.
Yeah.
And you have to be fast as well as a niche brand.
And you help to be fast.
Yeah, we are here for that, yes, of course.
Okay. The next question is also looking at maybe more the monetary part of it, so the logistics efficiency and sustainability. How do you actually optimize packaging for efficient transportation?
Okay, there are two major factors I would say, affecting the carbon footprint of a paperboard, and so this is the weight, of course, and as I said, we are creating or producing lightweight paperboards, and as well the energy which is used, and I will come to the logistic part. And then at Mezza Board or Mezza Group, 90% of the energy we use is fossil-free energy, renewable energy. So it does mean that, of course, thanks to light paperboard, you have a very efficient logistic, because you can put much more material in a truck, much lighter material in a truck, if you have a very light paperboard. But again, a light paperboard is something that's which is not, I would say, yet well understood. Because, of course, at the end of the day, it's nice to have a light paperboard, but it has to be strong. Because we don't want you to compromise with the final result. Never compromise with the final result. And in terms of logistics, still, we help you as a brand to, of course, to protect the product, but it has to come to the final, I would say, end user in good shape.
Yeah.
Because most of the waste in the world is coming from the transport, from not efficient logistic. And for that, you need strong packaging and light packaging.
Yeah. Good. Great point. The final question before we come to your question and answer session is, we mentioned the term circular economy earlier, and you are at Mezza Board also covering this aspect of sustainability, of course. How do you support fragrance brands in designing packaging aligned with the circular economy principles?
So first of all, the paperboard made from fresh wood fiber is an excellent product in terms of circularity. So I don't know if you know it, but both in the USA and in Europe, paper and paperboard packaging is well collected and recycled. So 80%, more than 80% of the paper and paperboard for packaging is collected for recycling. So it's a very good material for the circular economy. And most of the people don't know, but you can recycle several times a paperboard or a wood fiber paperboard. So it does mean that for the circular economy, again, it's very positive. And if you talk about how we can work together with brands or niche brands, it's part of a concept we offer to our customers and brands to integrate this circularity in their product, in their packaging.
Yeah.
So as I said in the very beginning, you have really to think about the secondary packaging as well when you talk about your fragrances or your perfume, whatever you are selling or producing. So it's not something that you have to put at the end of a day or say, okay, I will think about the packaging when I have time, if I have time, but it has to be really discussed from scratch. And our team, our designers are really eager to work together with you to see what would be the best match between your fragrance and the best solution for the circularity.
Do you have some examples for the second question regarding upcycling? You talked about recycling, but upcycling is certainly also of relevance here.
Upcycling, yes, we are not really in this, I would say, because we are already in a B2B business, and we are not in a B2C business. So upcycling is part, of course, of this, I would say, chain, but we are really focused on this, I would say, recycling stuff.
Okay.
We are not producing recycled grade. Don't ask me why now. I can reply to you on a later stage. But there is a kind of urban legend thinking that, so people are thinking that recycled grade are much better or more sustainable than fresh fiber, but it's just an urban legend. I can explain to you why on a later stage. Just to reply to your question, or beside to your question, by using a fresh fiber paperboard, you can decrease your carbon footprint by up to 60%. It's huge. Up to 60% carbon footprint reduction by using a fresh fiber. And again, to put in the loop, recycling or upcycling.
Yeah, okay. I think we had very good different angles on sustainability from a perfumer's point of view, from a brand point of view, and from a packager's point of view. And I would like to open the floor for questions and answers. So I think we have a mic somewhere, hopefully. Microphone. Or do we have a microphone? Yeah. I think there was a question over there, right? No? Yeah. There will be a microphone coming. Over here.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really interesting. So my first question is for Jérôme. So you say that using like the DPG, for example, to make more sustainable, it's better to use Tech-Nat. But why using natural ingredients or derivated from natural make it more sustainable for you? And you say the same with linalool and hyaluronic acetate?
Because it's not coming from petrochemicals. It's coming from a renewable source. So it makes it sustainable.
Yeah, but if we look to the footprint emission, then it's much more...
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, the CO2 footprint is higher if it's coming from petrol than it's natural extracted. No?
Well, I don't have the answer for the footprint because actually it's not yet included in the calculation of the green motion that we use as a tool. But it's the project is planning to include it later. It's true that since today we talked a lot about renewables, biodegradable fragrances, but it's true that the topic of the footprint, carbon on raw materials is popping up, and we have to adjust this topic as well.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to see, what a renewable formula for you was like. Sustainable and biodegradable more than CO2 footprints emission then?
It's true that the notions are not similar, but renewable is the starting point of the product and biodegradable is where it's ending up. So we try to do our best on each side, but sometimes the way to make the synthesis of the product doesn't have any other path, so we are stuck for some of them.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a question here. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
My name is Dennis. Thank you for interesting discussion, and I want to continue this discussion about petrochemicals. So you say that you try to avoid petrochemicals, but what if you could make this compound from carbon dioxide? So when you do synthesis, you're not starting from oil, but you're starting from carbon dioxide.
Sorry, I didn't hear you very well, sorry.
it's connected to previous question about
Yes.
you're trying to avoid petrochemicals in your work. So what if we all these old but well-known molecules, if we can synthesize not from oil, but if we can synthesize them from carbon dioxide?
It's that, for example, for the citrus, we use derivated from pine, and we make the synthesis from this instead of.
No, I mean, for example, coumarin, it's completely petrochemical, right? Or this propylene, dipropylene glycol, for example.
Yes, it's like what I mentioned on the Edion. Sometimes we don't have an alternative. For coumarin, we have a natural.
But if I can say that, yes,
one.
now you can have alternative which is made not from oil but from carbon dioxide.
The point is that at the palette, we try to replace the product that offer the opportunity to be switched on a renewable quality. But sometimes there is a limit in the chemical synthesis, and we don't have alternatives, except if we take the natural quality. But sometimes we have, for linalool, for example, we have the renewable quality, we have the natural quality coming from basil, basically, or the petrochemical quality.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there is kind of new ideas that come in. So it will not, now you can open more your chemical toolbox. You can do the same chemicals which people use for 100 years in perfumery, but they are now made from carbon dioxide.
I think that's a good point maybe for a later discussion between the two of you. More questions. We still have a few minutes. There's over there.
Hello, I'm Susan from Man. I have a question for Mr. Baudry.
Yes.
I understood that you are working a lot on circularity, and I was just wondering when will we stop cutting trees?
It's a very good question, and I could spend hours to talk about forest and deforestation. But again, here it's again a good question and about urban legend, because when we cut a tree, we replant 4 trees, always. The Finnish regulation is probably the most, I would say, strict regulation in the world. The regulation of the government in Finland says when you cut a tree, it's mandatory to replant 3 trees. In our case, when we cut a tree, we replant 4 trees. So it does mean 1 more tree than the regulation. And again, we could talk forever about that, and we can speak on a later stage together, because it's a very passionate debate or discussion or question. Because a well-managed forest is a forest which is, I would say, wild, of course, but which is managed as well. Because, you know, the carbon atom, for example, so the little trees, they are so greedy, they like carbon atoms. And they eat like crazy carbon atoms. And then the little tree grows fast when there are a lot of carbon atoms. So it does mean that they are digesting every day millions of carbon atoms. So it does mean that planting trees, you help to absorb the carbon atoms on the planet Earth. And when the tree becomes older, because we have 3 cuts, I would say, almost 4 cuts. But the last cut is between 70 and 100 years old tree. And when the tree is getting adult, call it adult, it doesn't absorb so much carbon atoms. So he's absorbing a lot of carbon atoms during his growth. So this is why stopping cutting tree is not a problem, I would say. Cutting tree is good if it's well managed, of course. I'm not talking about this deforestation in South America, etc., but I'm talking about Europe here. And so far, we didn't succeed to find a solution to replace paperboard or paper. So I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it's really difficult because of this urbanization. More and more people are living in big cities. How can you deliver the good without any packaging? It's impossible. And the growth, annual growth in paperboard is 4% per year, 4.2% per year. Plastic is 4% per year.
And do you think that your business model with the 1 tree cut, 3 trees,
four
four trees planted can possibly be exported to other regions?
Yeah, absolutely. It's already, I would say, in use in Europe, because Europe is well in advance in terms of sustainability, or well-managed forest, I would say. But yes, we talk with, because we are delivering in 170 harbors in the world, and more than 100 countries, and we are delivering pulp as well outside Europe. So we are delivering pulp in the USA, in Asia, etc. And we have some exchange, but I would say we have some association. We talk about this regulation. But the next topic, the biggest next topic is really, I would say, this new regulation. Since 1st of January this year, there is this EUDR, this is European deforestation regulation. So it does mean that someone who is using a table in wood, for example, or selling a table like Leroy Merlin, they have to prove that the wood they are using is coming from well-managed forest or certified forest. So it will really change the world in the coming month. And the regulation is getting very strict, especially in Europe. And I would say that the forest is in good shape and in good health. And we will discuss on a later stage together. I will show you some movies about the carbon footprint or the carbon atom, etc. It's so exciting. I love it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for coming.
Perfect. We have one more question there. Yeah.
Sorry, I know the last one, Mr. Tizot. You said that the only stuff we have to remember is that the juices by itself had a really low CO2 footprint emissions. And it's part about the scope 3. But then I'm really wondering, could you know that? Because until right now, there is no studies about the scope 3 on the raw materials. For example, how can you have the scope 3 of a vanilla? Because you cannot have, for example, the cutting and the planting and everything. We don't have the CO2 emission. I mean, until right now, I'm doing a lot of research, and we just have like the scope 3 of few synthetic raw materials, and not the natural ones. So I was wondering the sources for that.
No, I think it's from my days, my previous job at Firmenich. We did this work. We started like 15 years ago to rate ingredients with a tool like they do that also. So it was EcoScent Compass. So it was about scoring the main ingredients. So on a Pareto basis. So you cannot do for the whole palette. Taking data from your own ingredients that you produce, which might be 25% of the palette, and then for the top suppliers. So, and then if you do that, and then you can use proxies. So you can make estimates for the queue, I can say. Yeah. And then you can have a ballpark ID. Maybe it's not super accurate, but it's good enough to know, the CO2 the CO2 footprint, scope 3 of your concentrate.
Okay.
So
because I want to believe in it, but then what is your sources? Then I can also say like, okay, this vanilla, for example, get a good scope 3 because until right now I don't know where to look for having this kind of information.
Vanilla is a really small thing in the palette in terms of volume. If you have it on ISO, Super, Edione, the big things, you can reach with 400 raw materials, you can have 95% coverage in volume. So we rated this on 400 materials, including 100 that were produced by ourselves. So for those who have perfect vision of that. Okay. I know Givaudan, they do that as well. So I think it's good enough to know, maybe it's not fully accurate because there are proxies, but I don't think it's so bad, frankly.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any more questions in the audience? I don't see any more questions. So thank you once again for coming. Thank you for the panelists. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And if you from the audience have more questions through the three of them, go ask them. I would like to end with a quote. I usually do that at the end of a discussion. And this year it is from the Kenyan environmentalist and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Wangari Maathai, and it says the environment and the economy are really both two sides of the same coin. If we cannot sustain the environment, we cannot sustain ourselves. So that might be a good viewpoint for the rest of the day. And once again, thank you for the 3 panelists, and thank you for listening to us. Thank you. Thank you.